Hello, everybody. Yeah, so as you mentioned, city council at large, nearing the end of my second term, seeking re-election here in November. During the day, I'm the plant manager at Poet Bioprocessing here in Marion. Um, got currently three children that are attending Marion City Schools. I got two at Harding and one at Benjamin Harrison.
So why'd you run for office?
When I moved here, so I'm a transplant. Came here, moved here for work. So been with Poet for about 17 years now. Had the opportunity to come here in 2018 during the expansion, and just got very involved in the community. Was very involved in the United Way back in Putnam County, where I had kind of moved from. Um, so I got involved in the United Way here. Started coming to the council meetings pretty regularly for fun, I guess. Um, and then was just kind of blown away at what I saw and decided, if you wanted to change, you got to get inside and make it change. So that's why I decided to run 4 years ago.
Right. So
So Aaron, I gotta ask a question. I gotta ask a
Sure.
question here. So Aaron, when you moved to Marion,
Mm-hmm.
what were your initial thoughts about the city? Did you consider living in the county, or was there a reason that you wanted to move in the city?
I'll be honest. When I was looking to move here for the job, I first went to visit Delaware because I heard it was a great community. I went to the first house I went to look at in Delaware. I got out of the car. It was the first time I'd ever been to a showing where there was a line of people to actually get into the house. And then the realtor kind of handed me the property card and was like, "Here's some information on the property." And I looked at the taxes, and I was like, "Well, this has got to be a mistake, right?" He goes, "Oh no, that's accurate." And I was like, "Oh, we can get back in the car." So, um, so next weekend, I made plans to come and look at Marion, and I had a lot of people tell me, "Oh my gosh, you don't want to move to Marion." People sent me pictures of needles in the park and et cetera, et cetera. So I was like, oh, okay, what am I getting into? Came to Marion the following weekend, um, came to visit the parks, found all of that to kind of be not true. Maybe it was at one time, but I can tell you, when I was looking to move here, I went to just about every park in the city and scoured for needles and anything that was nefarious, and just didn't happen to find anything. I think the school when we came to visit was really neat. I think a lot of the impressions that people have outside of Marion, they got a bad rap a number of years ago, and it's just never really kind of outgrown that. That's my perception as an outsider. Um, but that's one of the reasons I chose to come to Marion.
so what do you
The
think the top
impression
issues
was
are?
positive.
I'm sorry.
So your impression of the city was all positive at that point when you were looking to buy a home?
Yeah. I mean, as we drove around the city, there are certainly parts of the city that weren't impressive. But I don't know that you'll go to any city and find a city that's all wonderful. I would say my overall impression of the city was very positive.
So with that said, what do you think the top issues are right now?
Well, the three big issues that I ran on, 4 years ago were city charter, um, the city sewer and sanitary system. I think we need to fast track that process to get that mitigated. And then the city finances. That's a huge thing that we've got to get our arms around as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's
So what made you kind of embrace the city charter idea, Aaron? Was that something that you had experience with when you were living in Fort Wayne or
Sure,
over in
Fort Wayne,
Bucks County?
Yeah, Fort Wayne is a charter city. I'm philosophically a libertarian, so it's just kind of in my nature to embrace the whole charter philosophy, I guess. I was a little bit shocked when I found out that Marion was still a statutory city. Um, so I just made it a kind of a campaign issue that, hey, we've got to get a charter here.
Now, what do you think the perceived benefits of a charter would be to the city of Marion?
Well, for starters, I think not having bureaucrats and politicians from Columbus, Cincinnati, and Cleveland dictate uh, the way that the city of Marion is governed, that's huge. Being able to establish our own form of government, maybe outside of the bounds of the Ohio Revised Code. By that, I mean city council should by no means be a 2-year term. It should be a 4-year term. So there are a number of things that would be of benefit through a charter. We don't have to grab all those at once, but I think we can piecemeal over the years. The important thing is that we establish a constitution for our city, and that's kind of how I view a charter.
Oh yeah, definitely. So you're saying increasing the term limits, that you'd be in favor of that for members of council. Would you be in favor of like nonpartisan elections
Yeah,
for council?
I don't think there's any need for uh, partisan politics in most levels of city government.
And the next question would be, would you keep the same composition of council? So 6 elected, 1 from each ward, and 3 elected at large? Would you be in favor of some, like what some charter cities of comparable size to Marion in the state of Ohio do? They have all are elected at large.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them will reduce the total number, even though they can have up to 9, they'll have, a reduced number.
5 or 7,
What,
I've seen. Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
I don't have a whole lot of feelings one way or the other. I think I'm more interested in the term itself, removing the partisan side of it.
Number?
5 or 7. As far as
What are
the
your
number,
thoughts?
I think it works well.
More
Having
interested
representation
in
from the ward.
the term itself,
Removing. I like
Number?
having 3 at-large seats as well.
What are your thoughts?
But I wouldn't. I mean, that's not going to make or break me in the charter if they come back and say city council is 7 at-large seats. I don't have strong feelings one way or the other.
Yeah, my only thought with that, if you're talking about like representation and I guess popular support, if you look at the wards of the city of Marion, I mean, there's a huge disparity between voter turnout in the wards. So you can get a seat on council from the 2nd ward and get a couple hundred votes. Whereas the 6th ward, you got to work your tail off, buddy.
Yep.
Well,
to be fair, you got to work your tail off in the 2nd ward to get those 200 votes.
Oh yeah, that's true, but it's still doesn't detract from the statement that it's a huge disparity in the turnout in the different wards. Robert, what are your thoughts, buddy?
Yeah, Aaron, I wanted to know what are your thoughts about staggering terms? So whether it stays 2 years or 4 years, do you think we move to, for instance, if we have all the ward races running at one time and then all of the at-large at one time, or sort of staggering those? What are your thoughts on that?
There absolutely needs to be some type of stagger because the danger of completely turning over city council in 1 year could be pretty dangerous, honestly. to not have any institutional knowledge, or that could be a bad thing. I also think it's not. I always got a little gun shy. I remember my first term, I came in, I was sworn in on January 1st, and then immediately had to go into approving a budget. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Trial by fire, Aaron. Trial by fire.
Yeah, I mean, it was too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's a lot of benefits to having staggered terms for sure. Would absolutely be for that.
Absolutely.
Now, going back to the nonpartisan elections for council, why do you think so many people in the city of Marion are opposed to that? Because they are, a lot of them. I've posted just putting out the possibility that that could happen with the charter, and you get kind of a boisterous reaction to that in opposition. Why do you think that is? As a libertarian, somebody that's
I don't know.
not.
For some reason, independents, libertarians, third parties, it scares you people in Ohio. You have never been kind to third parties here, ever. I mean, I intended to run 4 years ago as a libertarian. But literally, when I picked up my petition, I got home, received a call from the Board of Elections, and it said, "Hey, you guys just lost Marnia Party status again." So I was like, well, what does that mean? When there were like 3 different options of what I could do at that point, and one of which was saddle up to either the Democrats or the Republicans. So that's kind of what I did.
Yeah, I think, just to interject here, I think really it's going to boil down to what's the demographics look like at that given election cycle. You know, typically right now we're more of a red city, at least by registered vote and turnout. And I think, you know, you're typically going to see the Republicans are going to say, no, let's keep it partisan because it would work in our favor, of course. And the Democrats are currently going to say, you know, yeah, we're all for nonpartisan races because then it could potentially help them. So unfortunately, you know, we all have our inherent biases.
So the argument for nonpartisan elections is actually partisan.
Yeah, I think that's what we hear. I mean, unfortunately, like I said, people have inherent biases, and I think that, you know, that's not my personal opinion or my stance. I just, based off of what I hear and what I see, and when we engage with people, I think that's what most people are saying is, you know, it's a very red community right now. They want to know if you're red as well, if you're Republican. A lot of times that's what, unfortunately, for good or for bad, people look at that on the ticket and they might just down ballot vote just straight Republican. I've heard that when I was out campaigning myself in previous cycles. So again, good or bad, that's just the nature where we're at. And I think that just kind of gives us more information on what we're working with. And unfortunately, I don't think that's going to change anytime soon.
Probably not.
So
Yeah.
we run on stats, as you know. We pull stats and we kind of scrape the internet, so to speak. So one of the biggest things that we're seeing is a lot of pushback because of who is going to be on the charter commission. Are these concerns that you have? I know Cody here holds a law degree, and he's also a historian. He understands the charter probably better than I do. I'll let you, Landon, and Cody, while I run the board here, discuss these because we're seeing a lot of misinformation out there, and it seems like people just don't understand how the process goes. So what's going on in November is, if I'm not mistaken, is we're voting for the people to be on to build it correctly. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, there are two questions. First question is, should there be a charter drafted? Yes or no? So every citizen will get to vote yes or no on that question. And then regardless of how they vote on question number 1, question number 2 is, and I believe there are 24 candidates. 23 on the ballot. So they'll have an opportunity to pick 15 candidates that they would like to be on the charter committee.
Up to 15. So
Sorry?
it's got to, and that's one thing I think. Don't you agree, Aaron, that people, it should be stressed that they select up to 15?
Correct. You don't have to.
Well,
You don't have
automatically just pick 15 people
No.
and you selected 5 devils, you know,
Yeah.
in your mind, you
Yeah.
characterize.
It is your vote. You can vote for 0 people, or you can vote for up to 15. Absolutely.
Right.
Yep. That is the way it works.
Cody,
Yeah. So I mean, if you really feel strongly that Marion shouldn't have a charter and you vote no, logically you would think you wouldn't vote for any members to sit on that committee.
Cody brought up an interesting point in one of the mini team chats that we have out there. That back in the 50s when this was going on, the outpouring of you know discussion and things like that was pretty big. And I've been looking at the stuff he's talking about, and he's correct. What do you think? Is it just a decline in people caring, or do you think that something else is going on? It's not being conveyed correctly to the public.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. To be fair, there hasn't been much of a campaign to the public, so I think that's one of the issues. I think, I don't follow a lot how many people actually watch the live stream of city council meetings, but I can tell you a lot of people don't attend. So there doesn't seem to be a lot of engagement from city government. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of engagement unless you really need something from city government most of the time. So that's unfortunate. I wish more people would come to city council meetings to kind of see what goes on and to get engaged, to voice their opinion. But yeah, we haven't done a great job of certainly marketing the charter initiative. But I don't know what's causing, I guess, the general lack of interest from the public. I don't have a great answer.
Well, see, the difference in 53 when that was citizen driven. That wasn't Marion City Council passing an ordinance as they did in 2025 to
Sure.
put it on the ballot. That was a private group of Marion citizens getting together and saying, hey, we need to consider a charter. So let's get out and hit the pavement. And they went out and collected 1,200 signatures from city residents in order to get that on the ballot.
Sure.
And it ended up failing, got voted down mainly because of, so I think largely the papers indicated that it was having to do, people were a little bit reluctant with switching to a city manager form of charter government. But if you look at, and they had they had a public meeting at the very beginning. It was, I think, right before they went out and started passing out or collecting signatures. It was like 1,000 people that attended the meeting. So the other thing that was different, to go to Jason's question as far as the charter commission candidates, is that committee that had put in a lot of work and planning before going out to the public and collecting the signatures, they internally voted on who they wanted to nominate or get to run for charter commission. And it just so happened that the 15 citizens that were involved with the committee at the beginning ended up being the ones that appeared on the ballot, because it was kind of a situation, it sounds like, that the people of Marion that were in favor of this project or this endeavor, they all were involved and they all agreed that, yes, we're going to have these individuals. And the other striking thing about the composition is when the committee did that, they made sure that there was a candidate from every ward. And they also had at large. They're going to be, okay, we're going to have charter commission candidates that we're going to support from an at large basis, where there's going to be one from every ward. And they also made sure that the composition was it wasn't 50-50, but it was pretty damn close to 50-50 Republican and registered Democrat. And the other thing, you know how many government workers, city employees were on that charter commission in 53, Aaron?
0.
0, buddy. 0. You win. How many are on there today?
Yeah, that seems to be the general downfall with most of the people who are talking bad about it. So, in a worst case scenario, what would you say, like, if it they assemble the council, and then it goes into a stalemate? What happens at that point, guys? Like, if the people don't like the way that it's drafted or whatnot?
Do you mean the actual committee or
The charter itself.
so? So the charter committee will take roughly 7 to 8 months to draft the charter, at which time each Marion resident will receive the full charter. It will be mailed out, so every I shouldn't say that, every registered voter in Marion will receive the charter. They'll have an opportunity to review that, to read it in its entirety, and then decide if they want to vote for that charter or yes or no. So they'll have that opportunity next November to vote yes or no on the charter.
So what kind of campaign do you anticipate, Aaron? So let's say that voters approve it this November.
Mhm.
Charter Commission gets impaneled. They start drafting the charter. It goes out. What sort of public awareness campaign do you anticipate from the time that they're working on it, time that it's completed, and when it actually gets submitted for review and in preparation for them to vote on the final product? Do you think that they will do a better job spreading awareness for that part of the process than they are now?
I can only say I hope so, right? The advantage here is that it's written out how this process goes, right? So every registered voter is gonna get an opportunity to review the charter.
Right.
So to me, that's the benefit here, is that you're going to have something tangible in your hand that you're going to be able to read and decide, yeah, I want this for the future of Marion, or no, I don't.
Do you think that most people will understand it, or I guess try to put in a little bit of time to digest it and to consider it?
I'd like to think so. I'd
What
like
do
to
you
think
think,
that
Robert? You were
I'd like to think
instrumental
that people that show up to the ballot box are informed and somewhat educated. Is everyone? Probably not, but I think for the most part they are.
if you had to put a percentage on that. So we've got 18,000 registered voters roughly in the city of Marion.
Mhm.
Depending on the election, you might get 8,000 people that actually turn out to vote.
Mhm.
Majority of those are coming from the 6th ward, as far as a percentage basis. What of the ones that vote, and let me add this to it. Let's go circle back to the removing partisan affiliation. If you remove that, how will people vote? Do you think, honestly, that they will research
You have
each
to, right?
candidate? Huh?
You have to at that point.
I mean, I would like to think that they would, and I'm sure that some percentage would. But I'm just wondering, like, would then people just go and be like, I like this guy's name better, or I like this woman's name better, you know?
Yeah,
Because I wonder about that. Like,
I'm sure there's some of that goes on today.
oh yeah,
Whether there's a party affiliation or not.
I think the partisan probably guides majority of those
I
considerations.
don't know. I think if you're talking nationally, I think there's probably about 20% of people that walk into the ballot box and they're going to vote R all the way down the ticket. There's 20% of people that walk in and they're going to vote D all the way down the ticket. And there's probably somewhere in the middle a bunch of people that could waffle from side to side at any given time. That's just my take.
Might be. Robert, what do you think?
Aaron, what do you think is the consensus with council members, or are you even hearing anything from the administration side? Is really what is the intent with the charter? We have several city employees running for the commission. We have elected officials running for the commission. And without speculating here, what do you
I
think?
don't know what anyone's personal intentions are. I was a little shocked at how many people that are employed by the city or involved in the administration were actually going to run for the charter commission. I was pretty surprised at that myself. I don't know if everybody's got their own agenda, or I don't know. I haven't gotten a real good feel on that either way. If you're asking if it's a concern for me, yes. I would have liked to see more citizens, more non-governmental employees engaged and involved and wanting to be on the charter commission.
So expand on that concern. What are your concerns about a current city employee, public sector employee? Because I'll put the public sector employees in there as well.
Sure.
What are your concerns with that? What could happen as far as a worst case scenario, Aaron Rollins?
I don't know that I've even speculated on that, to be honest. I mean, the worst thing that's going to happen is we're going to get a really crappy charter that's going to be mailed out to us in 8 or 9 months, and we're going to go to the ballot box and turn it down, right? And waste a lot of money and time and energy towards something that Marion really needs. So I hope we don't go into it with a bunch of agendas, personal agendas, and things that we're trying to protect, because I do think there's enough educated voters that'll read and see through that BS.
Do you think that if they do get on the commission, so let's say the mayor, he gets a spot because he has decided to run.
Mhm.
Do you think that he should recuse himself from discussions on the charter commission that might impact his position as mayor? I mean, it might be a little bit difficult to do because he is the mayor of the city of Marion, so
No,
on its face, it would be difficult. But what do you think?
no, I don't think so. As long as he's willing to accept the fact that there might be 14 other people that say we're going to move to a city manager, and
That's fair.
the majority
fair.
probably rules at that point, right? I mean,
Yeah. Well, and Aaron, why do you think that? Because when you look at the public sector employees that are running, it seems to be predominantly people coming from Marion City Police Department. Why do you think it's so heavy on the police side and maybe not so much with fire or sewer and sanitation and so on?
I really don't have a feel for that. I don't know if I don't know. I really don't. I don't know if there's some type of agenda. I mean, obviously, I don't know. I don't know if law enforcement is slightly intimidated by the thought of a charter, if they're going to lose. I don't know. I can't answer that question. I don't know why so many from the police department decided to run for the charter commission. Not a clue. Especially when I don't really see any of them attend city council meetings or seem to engage in normal policy discussions.
Sure.
So I don't know.
Obviously, with the hot button issue right now being all of the attention being given to the city treasurer and the city auditor's office, do you think that there can at least be some consensus to have an appointed city auditor and a city treasurer? Do you think that those public sector employees and the elected officials that are running for the commission, do you think that that could be a common thread with them and the others that get elected?
Yeah, that was one of the main reasons I supported the city charter initiative 4 years ago was I felt we needed to have a set of standards for both of those positions, like they do in many other cities. This is not a slight to you, Mr. Landon, but you should be able to be more than a savvy campaigner to be a city treasurer or city auditor. You should have some knowledge of how government finances work. You should certainly be, I'd say, not inept at auditing and general accounting functions. I mean, some of the answers that we get at city council are mind blowing.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate it. No offense taken. I think, and I don't know if you had a chance. I actually sat down with Scott Spears on his radio station, and we kind of did a tell-all of my time. It was kind of my first time really coming out and speaking on some of that. And I mentioned as much. I tried my best to hire some of the best people that was available outside of keeping people in there that would have intentionally tried to sabotage my efforts.
Sure.
But as you know, we've talked in the past, and it's been obviously stated in public record about the faulty software system the city's still dealing with. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that there's a real effort, or that council could get behind getting a new software system? Because going back to 2020, we had identified pretty early on in my office that it was very tough to work with, and it wasn't even being used to its fullest extent. And so we had meetings with companies such as Software Solutions, which is an Ohio-based accounting firm. We had met with OpenGov, which was a brand new, relatively new software firm. And so we had looked at those options. Obviously, getting everybody on board was going to be pertinent, but we had to do some research. And so they all looked like viable options. Do you think that maybe now that we're several years out, do you think city council and even the administration could get behind something like that?
I certainly would get behind it, but I'm one of 9 on city council. So I can tell you I'm certainly all for that. Although I don't know that that's the driving force at this point. I think we've had forensic accountants get involved. They've set forth a process for us to be able to complete monthly reconciliations. And when we don't have individuals that are willing to do it, the situation's never going to fix itself. So yes, I'd be super open to software, because that seems to be a culprit almost every time. But there's also an unwillingness, I feel like, from both of those offices at times to answer questions and to really dig in and to give us the answers we need.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or to just do their job, right? I mean, we paid a lot of money to have somebody tell us what we were doing wrong, how to do it right, how we should get on the right track of future audits. And one of those things was a process for reconciliations. And month after month, we've had the treasurer tell us he's not going to do it. It's not his job. I mean, the situation is never going to fix itself until we have people that want to fix it.
What would you say to the situation with the current city auditor openly admitting to concealing payments? What have you heard anything from the state? Is there anything that's going to be done with that?
I've not heard anything on that front. I do know that the state auditor is looking into those things. Where that's at in their process, I don't know. I can tell you about a year and a half ago, I had a list of information that I had turned over to the law director, which I was told was turned over to the county prosecutor's office to start the removal of her from office. And I don't know that ever went anywhere. So I don't anticipate much going anywhere.
Why don't you think it went anywhere?
Well, we're still here. I haven't heard anything. I mean, maybe there's an investigation. Maybe he's looking at the information. But I certainly haven't heard anything.
Oh no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, yeah, why hasn't anything happened? That's kind of. a
No,
big question I think that has
it
been
is a great question that I keep waiting for an answer.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we've had numerous votes of no confidence. Um, I can't answer those questions. I don't know. I'm not a unfortunately I'm not an attorney. I have this much knowledge on how the prosecutor's office works, so maybe there's a process that he's going through with all of that information, but I have not heard anything. There's been zero follow up.
As
Speaking
I
of,
understand it, he's going through a number of processes.
I was just going to get ready
Some
into
high-profile
that next
processes.
segue.
I do want to ask, so you guys were talking about the charter and the deficiencies in the current auditor's office and the treasurer's office. So the solution, one potential solution with a charter form of government would be to consolidate the duties of the auditor and the treasurer into a new position of a director of finance.
Yep.
And instead of having the city auditor and city treasurer, be elected by the people of Marion, therefore requiring them to be an elector and a resident themselves of the city of Marion, by creating this director of finance position, they could hire them and they could come from outside of the community, therefore providing you a much larger potential pool of candidates, qualified candidates, and putting requirements. And I think that if the Charter Commission goes that route, it needs to be strict requirements. So the education component, the work experience, direct work experience component, minimum number of years of work experience in that field, it needs to be very strict. Would you agree with that, Aaron?
I absolutely would agree with that. Yep. And I would love for it to go that route. That's a huge reason why I'm a major proponent of the city charter, because that is the exact direction we need to move. If we do nothing else, with the city charter, that should be the goal, in my opinion. You can keep me on a 2-year term. You can keep me as a Republican, all of that. We've got to do something different there. We have got to do something different because it's not working, and it hasn't worked for a long time.
Yeah, we've been digging through finances and IT stuff. I know I've sent several of you guys, including yourself, some pretty stringent IT guidelines on some screenshots that we got a hold of. And I'm not going to show those tonight probably, but we will be publishing them. And basically what we see is the person in question with inappropriate access to every single financial system in the city. And I'm bringing this up because of the incompetence comments that keep being made. And when I say incompetence, I'm talking about elected officials that are coming back at me and saying that the 2020 debacle was because of incompetence. I mean, Landon himself admits that it was, his fault. He should have seen it. But when you start digging a little bit deeper, and it doesn't take long, our last article before we had to, step away for a little bit in 18 is what started all the crazy with Landon, and it ultimately ended with the ballot fiasco that went absolutely nowhere because it was a political game, period. Um, but this incompetence question, and I tend to agree with it, and the reason why, not quite as harsh of a word, but we're now back to 83, and I sent you that. 1983, we see the same games. No passwords, people able to post whatever they want to whatever account. We have the Brenda situation long, long time ago, where basically she probably wouldn't have been able to do that as easily if this reconciliation module, that is a core component of the financial software. And I'm on the record saying that. I've been in IT for 25 years. I don't understand finance real well, but these user permissions that I keep on going rants about are fundamental, ground level IT rules worldwide.
Mhm.
So when I got up and spoke to you guys that one night, you mentioned the server room access. That's still a problem. We just had Tommy in the server room. Is his office, and that breaches every single IT security protocol on the planet, pretty much. Um,
Wildly inappropriate.
what's that?
Wildly inappropriate.
Right, and the screenshots that we have, I'd have to look at the date, but I believe they're 2021. I know I've shown them to Landon. Landon, are they 21?
Yeah, I think it was March of 2021. And what you see in that is that somebody had access at the auditor council level, which only obviously an auditor would have that access. And so that, that would be like the auditor going out there to sewer and sanitation trying to do their job. It's not meant to work that way.
Right, right.
So yeah.
Segregation of duties is a big thing in IT. You should
Yeah.
never have somebody who is not qualified with any kind of. Uh, Robert uses the word administrator when he's talking about New World software, and that's not the kind of administrator that I'm talking about. When I'm talking about administrator with my IT nerds, all over the country, by the way, including local in the network, I'm talking about an access level that would allow them to do whatever they wanted. And we know for a fact that there
Mhm.
were permission wars. It's been stated, it's been talked about all over the place. And I know that Landon tried to reach out to me when I was going through all the family health issues, and it was real bad, and I couldn't dig into it. But when we came back, man, it didn't take me, what, 2 weeks, Robert, to
Yeah.
to dig into it, and I was like, oh yeah, this is all bad, and it
Well,
goes all the way back to '83. So
Mhm.
it's been going on, and these financial problems. The 2020 thing is just the prettiest explosion, guys, right?
yeah.
So I think it's trying to, pull away from the depth of the financial problems. Would you guys all agree with that? I know you. I don't think Aaron's seen all of the stuff, but I know that you guys have. You guys have seen the.
Yeah. And Jay, I think this kind of plugs into, because it may be to some of the listeners out there, how are we talking about the IT stuff, after we were just talking about the charter thing, but they really tie together. And Aaron, one thing I wanted to bring up to you is, I think really with this city charter, you have the ability to put those parameters in place much more stringently than you do under a statutory form. So, for instance, the city council, if they have more oversight with an appointed finance director in a city charter, they can make those rules more stringent on who has access to what and so on. And things can be reported to if there's still an elected mayor, and then that gets reported to council, or even if there's a special committee, kind of like how you have with your finance committee, and there's reports submitted.
Mhm.
There's just more oversight ability there. Would you agree with that, Aaron?
Yeah, I think I would generally agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what Jay was trying to get to with these permissions and with the IT audit is really where the city likely needs to go. Obviously based on his expertise and others. And so I think all of these issues kind of tie together. We do need some more oversight and accountability and transparency, obviously, in the city auditor's office and with the city treasurer, but also with the IT situation. And so I think that's really what you're trying to get at, Jay. Is that correct?
Even as simple as access to offices,
Yeah.
right? Who has keys to offices, and what is the process for them to be able to get into that office?
Right.
For
Yeah.
example, if the service director and the mayor are responsible for City Hall, the building City Hall, and there's a catastrophic need to get into the auditor's office after hours, is there a process to do that? That's what I want. I mean,
right.
Policies and procedures on who can access the office at any given time, and what does it take to access that office. It's as simple as who has a key. I mean, we need to get to that level of security. I mean, because I think I asked that question in a public meeting, and I don't know that I got a real confident answer from anybody on who has keys to the auditor's office.
Right. I
Yeah.
think you answered questions like that or asked questions like that when I addressed council with the blessing of the team. And it's real concerning to me that not too many people seem to understand, uh, despite supposed training or retraining or more training or however you want to word it, um, basic IT foundational protocols for permissions and physical security and things of that nature. And you're absolutely right. There should be detailed documentation authored and accepted by Bill or whoever the boss is now for IT, that says this is who should have these permissions. It's called an access matrix. You can have
Yep.
a software access matrix, or you can have a security access matrix, and most IT departments globally have both. So you know exactly who's supposed to have what permissions when they come into a position or an office or however you want to word it, who's
Yep.
allowed to badge into the server room. And most of the time, it should only be qualified IT or very trusted people, and it should be logged 24 hours a day. There should be cameras on them 24 hours a day. That's just how IT works,
Mhm.
especially when you're working with millions and millions of dollars and personal client, payment and information and account numbers
Personal
and
data.
right. It's blowing my mind the more I look at this, the more stuff we find. And I've been sharing it with Robert. I've shared some of it with you, and I'll send you some more. A couple other counselors, the ones who said they had absolutely no idea, I don't disbelieve them. It would be tactical for a nefarious person or somebody who's doing something that's not supposed to be, not to allow certain people to know. Does that make sense? Will they keep quiet? You know what I mean? Or will they go
Sure. I
along
think
with it?
I
So
think I
it makes sense to me, but I have several eyewitnesses to these permission issues. And these eyewitnesses are both past and current officials. These are elected officials. They're highly credible. Just like if you told me something and you told me just like they did, if I ever get subpoenaed, I will testify. And that's why we brought it before council that night. And it's not going to go away. We're pretty serious about this, and we've got a whole bunch of people who have seen this. It's kind of our policy to send this stuff out. The finances are a mess, guys. It's out of control.
mhm.
And I think the IT stuff correlates greatly with it because it got drastically worse right around 2007, 2008. Everything just started going downhill, and it is our belief, most of us on MarionWatch, including Cody, who's a finance guy, 15
Yeah.
years of experience with a law degree, and he's a historian, that the economy may have played a little bit of a part in it, but a lot of this IT stuff, who did what and when? Do we know? No, we don't.
Well, and the fact that the whole system was set up erroneously to begin with, and that you have, I believe her name was Belinda back when I was in office. That was the head of local government services division. Maybe Aaron, you can correct me on that. But I believe she even went on record because she told me this in meetings in the auditor's office that it took them 5 years roughly to help my predecessor to even figure out a process to agree on. And if you go back to those audits in the first 3 to 5 years, you'll see a lot of those findings there. So you're right. It does go back to this software was set up not in the right way to begin with,
Mhm.
and that certain people were gatekeeping access to the server and gatekeeping information. Really, if we boil it down to where the audit thing has spiraled out of control, this is separate from the IRS issue. I know some of the people on council and former officials have tried to make it more about the IRS mistake, and those are two separate things. The audit thing really started back in March 2021 when council refused to approve the independent contract with Julian and Group because the state auditor's office was backed up, and they said they couldn't start the audit until August of that year. And Mr. Rollins, you might remember that was actually, they were on track. They did start that audit back in end of August of 2021. But the fact that when I was in office, the former deputy auditor and the IT person who still works there to this day, nobody informed me that the server was wiping data or not keeping data on there for utility billing after 90 days. And this is unheard of in the financial sector, whether it's government or private. And so what Jason is getting to is there's just all of these red flags, and what we've tried to pinpoint everything on is a single IRS mistake in June of 2020. And obviously that shouldn't have happened. Nobody's saying that, that we're not making excuses for that.
Yeah. So
but we need to look at the broader picture here, and if we need to have competency, of course, in these offices, no doubt about that. But we also need to address these IT failures, these permission failures, accountability failures. And I think probably one of the reasons why you agree, Mr. Rollins, is because that city charter does give you more oversight authority, so you can kind of put these things in place.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, Jay, you were going to piggyback off that with the IT situation.
I'll stop after this and let you guys continue on, but we should have a show on just the IT and the financial stuff, maybe a 2-hour show, because it's extensive. But guys, if I took over a company, and Cody, you're a financial guy, if the things that I've shown you, and say that we got hired into a company and you were the finance guy and I was the IT operations manager, I know that I would take one look at this stuff. There's so many IT red flags mixed with the financial stuff. I would immediately draft a well-worded email to the president of the company and ask for a forensic IT audit and a financial audit. And I would consult with the finance guy. And finance guy, what would you say about all this crazy?
I'd say, fortunately, we're a public sector institution, so we don't got to be accountable for shit.
Right.
That's what I'd say.
Yeah, but as a government entity, what would you say?
Look, it doesn't take much more. You can look at the finances and realize it doesn't pass the smell test for decades. But you have to all you have to do is look back at the history of the city. As we've discussed before, the town collapsed in the 70s and in the 80s. It was a complete gutting of its primary economy, which was manufacturing. And they correlate with each other on, if you look back even a little bit further, when did the city implement the municipal income tax? Well, it passed it in 1959, and it was only, I think, a 0.6%, and it was supposed to be a temporary measure for 2 years in order to use those funds for street improvement and that sort of thing. Well, something like 50% of those funds went into the general fund, even though they said that it was just going to be used for street repairs and that sort of thing. So they lied about that, and then they lied about the fact that it was only going to be on for 2 years. So they kept it on ever since then, and they've gradually increased it to its present 2%. And, when you had Huber, when you had Tecumseh at the end of its existence in 83, 84, employed something like 1,400 people inside the city limits, mind you. So people, that would be akin to probably about, you get different figures when you're talking about how many employees Whirlpool presently employs. They're kind of, if you look at Can-Do's figure, it's one thing. If you look at the Chamber of Commerce, it's another. So it just depends on what source you want to go with, I suppose. But they're only about 1,400 employees, something like that. Now they're located outside of the city limits. Mm-hmm. So they weren't subject to that income tax.
Yeah.
And that, when you're, that can make all the difference in the world. And the state of Ohio did the same stupid thing in 1972 by implementing the state income tax. Before that, we did not have a state income tax. So if you're a business in the city of Marion, or for that part, across the state of Ohio, then you got kind of hammered on your margins pretty substantially in that era. And what happened? Well, you also had globalism and global trade and issues, policies at the federal level and things that impacted that, Federal Reserve with finances and stuff. But that's why municipalities have to realize that they have to make their towns competitive. They have to be able to adapt to current market conditions.
That's
And
exactly
they
it.
have to make it attractive and competitive to do business. Because if I have a factory, and Aaron, you lived over in Putnam County, that area for a while, right? Finley has about the same population, 1% income tax. It can make a difference. You have to look at that. And what have we seen over the past 50 years? We've seen a gutting of industry and a replacement by public sector employment, by growth in government, taxpayer funded positions. And in Marion's case, it's that and service sector. That's what you've replaced it with. But you
Yeah.
look, I pulled figures from uh, Huber, and I think the year was like 1960 or something like that. And I looked at the total, they had their total payroll expenditures for the year, and they had the total number of employees. On a per capita basis, it was like equivalent, if you adjusted for inflation, of like $60,000 a year. So we replaced, not only did we lost those jobs, and then people are working at a vape shop now, or something like that. Working, we lost our mall, so I would say they worked at the mall or something like that.
Yeah.
But
Cody,
yeah,
I think Aaron being a business or general manager or plant manager at Poet, which is a very renowned company, actually, not just here, but all over, obviously understands about market competition and business analytics and things like that. And when you're looking at Cody, I think you did the paper on this on your charter page. That I think 3 out of 4 cities in Ohio are charter cities. So something to that effect. And if we want to be competitive, if we want to be able to draw in top tier talent, this is the way to do it. We're going to have our hands tied trying to do it with a statutory city. Aaron, can you speak to that a little bit more? What do you have any thoughts or ideas about how we make this more competitive?
Yeah, well, I mean, we got to fix the financial issue. I mean, if I'm a business owner or a manufacturer and I'm looking to move to a community, am I going to move to one that's in absolute financial shambles? And absolutely not. So there are advantages to the charter there. The other big issue is who's grabbing the wheel on economic development now.
who is? What?
No, I don't know. So
That's not good that you don't know. Nobody knows.
we don't have a director of Can Do. I mean, Can Do was kind of the economic development wing for the county and the city. With Gus no longer there, there's talk of maybe a joint position between the city and the county. I'm not sure where that's at today, but that's we need an economic development wing.
Mm-hmm.
We need somebody focused on that day in and day out, every day. And so to me, we're losing out right now. We're losing out today because we have nobody who's fighting for those jobs and those positions right now.
Absolutely.
So the financial thing basically is a culmination of abuse, incompetence, and economics, from what I'm understanding, which moves me to my next fun topic that I've been looking at, which was the fiasco at City Council. What was that? Because that was wow. Who wants to start with that?
Mr. Rollins, what's your take on the, how long was it? Like 3 hours, 3.5 hours of chaos?
There was a lot of chaos. Yeah, it makes me a little bit fearful for January 1st and what follows. I don't know. There was a lot of chaos. It was unprofessional. I like to tell people I'm not in the circus. I just travel with it. But
That's what I call it. It's the circus. That's my nickname. That's what you'll hear me online calling it. The circus.
it was embarrassing.
Did they
Yeah,
inform you that they were going to go after the no confidence vote against Treasurer Reese
I was.
beforehand?
Yeah, I had received a phone call, and then obviously I saw it on the agenda prior to.
And the same with the amendment of the resolution to change it from treasurer to auditor. Was that the same telephone conversation then?
Same telephone conversation. Yep.
Were you supportive of that?
Supportive of the
no
amendment
confidence.
where we changed it from the treasurer to the auditor.
The no confidence vote.
I'm right now. I'm in favor of that vote. So we'll see. I believe it's back in Legislation and Codes Committee right now. Hopefully, it gets kicked back to council and we have an opportunity to vote on it. But right now, I'm leaning towards yes, supporting that.
Who's on that committee, Aaron?
That would be Jason Schaber, I believe Ralph Smith, and Bill Dichtel.
Okay.
Now, Cody, wasn't you when we were talking previously? And correct me if I'm wrong here, but was the law director requesting outside help with this particular situation? Was this some other situation I'm recalling?
No, well, on the amendment of the resolution for the design services contract, apparently he consulted with what is it, Bricker Grayson? Is that the name of the firm, Aaron?
Bricker Grayson, yes.
Yeah, and allegedly, well, he stated that they were saying that the proper signatories was the safety director, since it's for a fire station, for the architectural plans, $673,000 to McCall for their services on that. And apparently, well, according to Russell, he said that the proper signatories was the safety director as well as the treasurer.
Mm-hmm.
But then Tommy Reese said that when he spoke with the attorney from Bricker Grayson, he said, well, yeah, usually this is the auditor. But, you know, in some circumstances, if you're researching, they'll put fiscal officer. Well, fiscal officer can be a director of finance if you're a charter city. It could be the treasurer. It could be the auditor. And then if you're at the village level, the fiscal officer typically is a combination of village clerk and village treasurer. Those two roles are combined into one position. So attorneys make mistakes. You have a whole different, as far as composition, like we were talking about. A lot of the cities that are in Marion's demographic, they are charter cities. So it could have been a misstatement by Bricker Grayson or something. but it takes about 2 minutes to look up the ORC
That's
to
it.
see that it is clearly under the authority of the Director of Public Safety and the city auditor. And
Right.
you would think,
Which you got up and spoke on that at the council meeting.
exactly, because there's only like, if you look up in the ORC city treasurer and you look up city auditor, I think there's like 5 or 6 subsections
Hmm.
in total. And one of those is talking about bids, which that is essentially a bid. So they're reviewing the bids, reviewing the details, and also to procure the contracts is what that section of the ORC says, and says that it's a city auditor. It makes logical sense
Mhm.
to have the auditor is supposed to
Hmm.
be the be all end all as far as the city finances go.
Exactly. And anytime
So
when I was auditor, Cody, nobody ever sent anything to the treasurer's office for certification of funds, whether it was OWDA or the Public Works Commission, whatever it is, anything that needed a certification of funds always went to the auditor's office. So, it kind of begs the question, how did the law director not know this? I mean, isn't he tenured? He's been in there for 33 years, I want to say, something like that.
Yep.
yeah, 32,
And
32 years.
this just seems to be a pattern with the law director. I mean, being as tenured as he is, we're constantly hiring outside help for sometimes the smallest of things that should be even done by one of his assistant prosecutors. And so, Aaron, what do you think about with the prosecutor and with this situation? Do you think maybe there could be some buy-in from other commission members to make the law director an appointed position, so you can get somebody from the outside, maybe that has more expertise, more broad expertise?
Yeah, we were kind of talking about this before we went on air, I guess, Cody and myself, and he had mentioned, that if you look at the demographics and you kind of research where we're at in the city of Marion, the way the law is structured right now under the ORC, if God forbid law director Russell was to walk outside and get hit by a bus, there's maybe one person in the city of Marion that could run for that position. Whether or not they would or not is a completely different question.
Mm-hmm.
But when you kind of box it that way, that's a scary situation to be in and of itself. So
Mm-hmm.
I do think it's something that the charter committee should look at it very closely and come up with some type of resolution there. Very similar, I think, to director of finance. I mean, let's open it up to outside folks too, if that's what makes the most sense. If that's where we're going to get the qualified individual to do the job.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
You do have the ability to bring them in and require residency within the city limits. Typically, based off what I've seen, it seems to be like a 90-day limit. You could probably shorten it or make it longer, depending on the commission's wishes. But it seems like that typically is usually what you see is a residency requirement. Is that what you've come across, Aaron, when you've studied the city charter?
That's exactly what I've come across. So they've got a time period to move to the city, just like I would have been given the opportunity when I took the job here in Marion for the private sector, right? I mean, they gave me a time frame. Hey, we really want you to move closer to the plant. We want you to be somewhere close to the community here. So, yeah, I mean, that's the way it should work.
Yeah.
And the other thing I just want to point out is that they can structure it to where those, let's say, director of finance or law director being appointed, but you can have it as appointed by council, your legislative body, or you can have it appointed by your executive. You can have it appointed by the mayor. If they switch to a city manager form of government, like many charter cities operate under, they could have the city manager make that appointment and get confirmation from council. The other thing, people think like, oh, it's going to remove our ability to have a say. No, they're at will employees. So if they hire a law director from outside of Marion, just because we absolutely need a larger candidate pool, they can be fired if they're not doing a good job. They can be fired. Same thing with the city manager. Same thing with the
Director of
director of
finance.
finance.
Mhm.
So then it would be incumbent upon the citizens of Marion to go to their legislator, members of council, and say, hey, we don't like what's going on here.
Mhm.
And hopefully they would take action.
Yep.
But that's better than right now under statutory form. You get some bozo in there that's protected by the Ohio Revised Code,
Mhm.
and then you're stuck with the mess that we just experienced. Oh, we do a no confidence vote, or we have affidavits signed and send it off to the probate court and try to remove them that way.
Mhm.
You know, I think it's a lot cleaner, a lot smoother of a process uh, the other way. Don't you, boys?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, I think it seems like we're coming down to probably two um, popular forms of government here. So, it seems like a lot of people are either in favor of a city manager form of government, and then all of your other officials are appointed. Or similarly, you still have appointed officials, but like we would see with the federal government, you have an elected mayor still. So we have a separation of powers. That seems to be popular with some people still. But then you have appointed officials, and like what you would see with the federal government, maybe the mayor would appoint the law director or the finance director, and then you would receive the advice and consent of city council. And then, if it came to a point where one of those officials needed to be removed, and if you didn't want this to be like some erroneous process, you could even require a 2/3 vote of council to remove them instead of just a simple majority. What do you think about that, Aaron? Do you think those are the two common threads we're seeing here, and the most viable options?
Yeah, I think so. I think it'd be a lot. This is just my personal opinion. I think if we want the city charter to pass, I think the less big change we have, the better. I think just in general, people are apprehensive to change. Um, so we should start small. And I think if you look at where the biggest need is, it's definitely in those financial areas, the auditor, treasurer. I think if we get that right, and we show people in a couple years, yes, this was the right decision. I
Mm-hmm.
think that opens it up to future charter initiatives where we can maybe talk about a city manager, or we can talk about moving that direction in other departments or other
Sure.
areas.
Sure. That's a really solid point. Well, Aaron, I know we're kind of running low on your time, and we certainly appreciate you coming on. Is there anything else you wanted to bring forward to the listeners tonight? Anything else you wanted to share? Maybe there's some hopeful things happening in the city, or even maybe with Poet. Anything you want to share there?
Well, Poet's always exciting, but no, very excited about being on the ballot again in November. So I hope everybody gets out. It's going to be an important election, although very local in nature. But we've got the charter initiative, which I think we all on this call agree, and hopefully many out there in Marion agree. We definitely need to move in that direction. So I guess I'll leave you with that.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate your time, Aaron. Cody, Jason, anything you guys wanted to add before Aaron drops off? We'll probably stay on just to kind of recap here.
I got one thing. I just want to thank you guys for the opportunity. I think this might be maybe the first guest speaker thing. So very awesome to be the first. I appreciate that very greatly. This was a lot of fun. So thank you for keeping me in mind.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. We're doing it mobile for now. It's easier to get everybody together and not try to get the whole team together in one place. The team's bigger than people think it is. I don't know, Cody. What do you think? There's 24 admins on the page, and I don't know how many of us in the chats. The main chat's got probably half a dozen, and then we've got side chats that probably equal 100 people here and there.
There's a lot.
So we're
It's
gonna
like
keep on
herding.
doing it.
It's like herding cats if you're trying to get something done.
Yeah, we
So,
live
but
this. I mean, Robert knows.
it
He's been here.
works. It works
So
though.
one more thing I
And
want
yeah,
to.
I think this is a great format. I think it's a great feature. It's something that hopefully people will utilize as a resource for information. And if we can get more participation from elected officials and community leaders like Aaron Rollins, I think it's just going to be all the better, because we kind of live in it's kind of weird. We have all this information at our fingertips. We have more availability of information, and yet we're probably more ignorant as a civilization than we've ever been. And it's kind of a dark age in a lot of ways. That's why it's incumbent upon people like us, community leaders, elected officials, to spread that awareness. And I think as far as Marion goes, there isn't a more consequential political issue in the 200-year history of the city of Marion than what's coming up this November and potentially next year with the charter.
That's
So
right.
people have to do their homework. They have to put in a little bit of effort into this process, because the ramifications, it could be great. And I'm 100% in favor of its potential if it is drafted appropriately with the requisite thought and care by people with the proper motivations. But you, the voters, will be the ones that will make that decision. So you have a duty in this process. And if you want to follow, I mean, you're obviously watching this show, so all the fine work that's done by Operation Marion Watchman, Marion Patriot Network,
There's
the
a whole bunch
Marion
of us.
Ohio Charter information page. Go there, check it out. I'm putting up as much information as I can, and I'm trying to maintain an objective stance, just informational. I put some memes on there. Hopefully you're not clutching pearls and got your panties in a twist that I said something against the charter or for the charter in the form of a meme. You got to have a sense of levity, folks, because this is a big deal.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say.
Yeah, the charter information page, 2025-26 charter information page is Cody's page, who is officially on the team now, and he is a historian. I got to tell you, man, it's pretty cool having a historian on the team, man. Like, there's a lot of things that he just talks about that fills in blanks for us, and then we start looking at the council minutes and the finances. We're like, oh, we missed that. So, man, it's so cool. So he's definitely qualified to be running that page, and far more qualified than I am to speak on any of those subjects. We're more into digging and putting together large networks of people who can assist us and assist the citizens. Because MarionWatch isn't just my page, it's the city's page. It's just Dennis and I who started it. It's a large group of community elders and kids that I grew up with, and folks like yourself, past and not current officials. That's a little bit too close to the sun. Um, I mean, I don't want to get anybody in trouble. I don't know your guys' laws or rules, so but we have talked to a lot of them, and there's a lot of progress going on. And hats off to Bill for having to deal with all this financial crazy and the things he's trying to do to get the city back in order and prettied up. I know he's getting a lot of pushback, but as far as MarionWatch goes, I don't really have any fire going towards Bill currently. He's been open and above board with me. He's responded to my concerns about the IT nightmare, and we'll be reaching out to him, but we want to make sure that we have our entire study done first. And currently I'm at about 1997, I think, with the financials, and I am approaching 1992 with the city council minutes. I'm correlating them. Probably be two separate articles because I'm going to try to keep them a little shorter. Then we'll discuss them here. So if you ever want to come on and bring some council friends, man, let me know. We'll have a big powwow, and we'll just go through all the articles and all the documents and good stuff, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Hang out here for a minute. I'm going to go ahead and end the cast.
Okay.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
Have a good night.